Well, good day, everyone. Thank you so much for being here for this first little webinar that I produce with and for John for Disc Jockey News TV for all of you insiders. My name is Dave Ternier. As many of you know, I'm the talkative guy from up here in Canada who right now is talking with his hands, which doesn't always happen, but we'll see if I can control that. Anyway, most of you probably know me through the Disc Jockey News show that I do with Jeremy Breck on Wednesday nights, inconsistently throughout the summer, but to be returning to more consistency in the fall, I believe. Wedding Chat is that show. A djthought.com is also a place online where I share many of my thoughts. Sadly, I'll just apologize to anybody right now that enjoyed reading those blog posts. Of course, those of you who read them regularly know that they have been very few this year. I have been pouring all of my energies into the Canadian Professional Disc Jockey Association, which sadly has left little to no time for the blog. So it's not done. It's just taking a pause, I assure you. So that's a little bit about me. I'm a solo operator, DJ MC in Manitoba, which is the middle of I know a few of you are saying middle of nowhere, Canada. That's almost true. In fact, I wrote a blog post about kind of how middle of nowhere-ish I am called For the Record. If you look up that post on djthought.com for the record, you'll see exactly kind of where I am and the unique area that I find myself in. So solo operator, DJ MC with an ultra focus on weddings. I do 40 to 45 events per year, 20 to 25 of which are weddings. The other is a small handful of corporate, small handful of fundraisers, that type of stuff. And weddings do account though for between 80 and 85% of total annual revenue. So, I mean, weddings are truly, my passion and what I spend most of my time focusing on. So what I will be speaking about tonight is within the context of weddings. So that should be made very, very clear. So let's get right into it, shall we? So from $500 to $4,500, so from $500 in 2010 to $4,500 per wedding in 2018, I am regularly asked, how and when did you raise your pricing, Dave? What motivated you to make those price increases? Were there certain signs you watched for before raising your price? How often did you raise your price? Was it once a year, twice a year, more or less? How did that all work? And those are really great questions and something that I've worked to try to develop some answers to. So about 3 years ago, I wrote a post about this, and I'm expanding on that post here tonight. So in 8 relatively short years, I've moved from being a DJ with a base wedding price of $500. That basically got you me, a basic speaker system, a very basic T-bar fixture, lighting system behind me. And so I moved from that to being a DJ MC today with a wedding reception only, starting price of $4,500. And that is still me, a basic speaker system. The lighting has changed a little bit. I now always come with a pair of moving heads on glow totems and, half a dozen to 10 uplights for dance floor ambiance. And I don't mean uplights for, cocktails, dinner. These are just uplights. I just use them for dance floor ambiance when the dance floor starts. If they want uplighting, that is an additional add-on. So now it should also be noted that along this kind of 8-year journey of mine to increasing pricing and such, there have been major changes to the time spent pre-planning with my wedding couples and my personal development as a wedding MC and as a wedding DJ. So when it comes to vocal skills, I have spent a lot of time working on that. And when it comes to DJ skills, mixing, music management, all that type of thing, I've also increased that part of me an awful lot. But this today isn't going to be about those things. And how much better I made myself over the last 8 years. I'm going to assume that you're already working on that type of stuff. Now I will touch on that a little bit later, but this has got to do with the $1 million question, or a couple $100 anyway. When and how did I raise my price, and what were some of the situations I suppose I put myself in to enable that to happen? So as mentioned, this presentation is based on a blog post that I wrote a number of years ago. It's one of the most popular ones I wrote. But with today, I'm also going to share some examples of where these ideas, these 6 ideas I'll speak of, have popped up in my life. And I'll share details about how you might be able to get yourself into these positions as well. At the end of this, I'd like to host a Q&A with everyone here, telling me about what idea that I've shared or discussed in the next 30 or so minutes is the weakest for them, or maybe the most difficult for them to incorporate. So I'm counting on you to be a little vulnerable, if you don't mind, with me and with us in the group, because your challenges are likely echoed by somebody else here as well with us. So your willingness to chat about it will likely help somebody else as well. So we'll discuss it, try to come up with some actionable things for you to take away, and then we'll go from there. So, will it work? Will any of what I share here tonight with you work? That question ultimately is up to you. It really depends on your commitment to these ideas and these mindsets as a whole. What I'm going to be sharing are things that have worked for me, and they can work for you. I will say this though, most times when I raised price, it was a convergence of 2 or more of these things coming together at the same time that resulted in a price increase for me. This is what worked for me, and it does continue to work to this day, and I'll touch on that a little bit later as well, as far as that's concerned. So getting right into it, the very first one, and this may seem somewhat arbitrary, and I guess one could argue it is to an extent, but after 6 consecutive inquiries go through your consultation process and book your services, consider raising your rates. So after 6 people inquire, all 6 of them end up booking, consider raising your rates. That's what this is about. So let's think about this for a moment. If the last 6 wedding couples that inquired about your services told you you were worth your price, because essentially that's what happens when somebody books you, how much would they have actually been willing to pay? How many of them would have paid more? The only way to truly discover that answer is actually, you'll never know. You have no way of knowing what the answer to that is. And I wonder if that bothers you. It bothered me for a while because I wasn't sure where the ceiling was, right? I didn't want to be leaving money on the table when I was trying to create something so that I could, not only provide for me and my family, but I wanted to provide a lot for my couples. So knowing that I was maybe leaving money on the table was concerning. So I took that as an indicator that maybe I need to bump up. So most, 6 couples in a row booked, they most likely would have probably paid more than you were asking. So if 6 inquiries in a row book, consider this idea. I will say, one of the motivating things about this, and the number 6 is somewhat arbitrary, but I found it to work well for me because it allowed me to get enough sales under my belt of a certain price point without it being too little or too much before I jumped. But I will say this personally, there were plenty of times when I would get excited knowing I was only 1 or 2 sales away from hitting that 6 in a row. And that excitement and confidence that I was about to get there and that there was a price increase coming, that helped me sell a lot. It truly was a compounding effect. Now, how does one learn to sell? This is a skill in and of itself. I credit the majority of my sales skills to back in February 2011. I was at Mobile Beat Las Vegas, and Mitch Taylor presented creative consultations, and I had never been exposed to the idea of approaching a sales conversation that way when he presented, his method at that time. And for me, it was revolutionary. I realize it's a big word, but it really caused me to focus on this part of my business, and such that I never spent a whole lot of time focusing on. I mean, I'm guessing, I shouldn't assume, but I'm guessing not a single person here on this call, here watching this presentation, became a DJ because they love sales. I didn't. In fact, I didn't know a damn thing about it. So getting yourself to this point requires honing sales skills. So Mitch has got some great workshops. This is not just a sell Mitch thing, but this is just what's worked for me. His book of sales for event pros is great, but for me, it all went back to that first presentation he gave, Creative Consultations. At least it was the first presentation I saw him deliver. I believe it is available from Mitch Taylor, tailoredsales.net. I should have looked that up ahead of time. But yeah, I would encourage, if you're not having this 6 in a row, focus on the sales end of things and make that happen for yourself. So next up, if you want to become a millionaire, surround yourself with millionaires. I should slow down real quick here and just see, is there any, holy gosh, there's lots of conversation happening here on the side. Bear with me, folks. I'm just going to jump on here. Where's everyone from? Good, good, good. Okay. So if you want to become a millionaire, surround yourself with millionaires. I don't know who first said that, but it is a concept, it's an idea that that has really taken hold in my life. Now, what does it have to do, though, when it comes to raising rates and in this 6 ideas, these 6 tips for raising your rates? It has to do with this. If everyone around you, everyone that you've surrounded yourself with is struggling and fighting for rates that you want nothing to do with, you've got to find a different group of people. It sounds like a downer, but everyone needs to surround themselves with people who support and encourage their goals. When my first goal, when it came to pricing and such, the crazy idea of $3,500 a wedding, that was before I got to where I am now. When that crazy idea first became a real, tangible, God, it's maybe possible goal for myself, I decided to surround myself with everybody I knew that was making more money than I was. I wanted to be around people who would encourage me, coach me, people who would be positive influences to me. I didn't want to have much to do with people who might tell me it couldn't be done. Now, did everyone that I tried to surround myself with become that group of people for me? Of course not. Absolutely not. Personalities, tastes, styles, different business, approaches to business. Those things don't just universally mesh with each other. There are piles of different people out there, and only so many connect with each other. But I kept on looking. I kept looking until I found a tribe of people, my tribe, who would support this mission. Now, this doesn't mean that I simply left everyone else behind, but my priorities did change, admittedly. We have a complete and free choice on a great many things, but the amount of time we have in a day is something we have absolutely no decision over, zero. We have exactly, you, I, your wedding couples, all the other DJs out there, photographers, who knows who. Every single one of us, we have exactly 24 hours each and every day. And with that time that we were given, it is up to you, nobody else. It is up to you to determine how that time will best be spent and with whom that time will best be spent. For those in my chosen circle of influence came constant encouragement. Whenever I brought up the idea of raising my rates, the idea was always, always, always met with overwhelming enthusiasm. I had a group cheering me on. So my question is, do those in your chosen circle of influence overwhelmingly support this for you? It's a huge question. How do you do this? How do you find that group of people? Well, it takes a lot of work. You need to reach out to people. You need to connect with people. Now, with the advent of everything we can do online, even like we're doing here tonight, starting an online group is super easy. What I might suggest is start a mastermind group. Anybody can do it. I've been a part of a number of them in the past. Most people come and go from these groups, but from them, though, I found the group of people who have since become my friends, my supporters, and the people who call me out on something should I stray from the right path. Video software such as Zoom or whatever you'd like to use is really easy to set up. So my suggestion, if you don't have this group of people, this whole idea of, if you want to become a millionaire, surround yourself with millionaires. I don't, by the way, none of the people in my group are millionaires, FYI. So what I would suggest is set up a group like this, meet up with a group every week is probably a bit much. Try every other week or maybe once a month. Even the once a month groups that I used to belong to, they just got to be a bit too much after a while. But like with everything, people prioritize what's important to them. If someone isn't making you a priority, don't hold any negative feelings toward them. That's a complete waste of energy. Just continue looking for those people who will make up your tribe. You will find them. And if you're persistent and do the work, they will become this incredible group of people that will have more to do with your rates than you might initially realize. So quick question here. With all due respect, mastermind groups are usually a bunch of DJs who think they know what they're doing, gossip about other DJs, and nothing productive really happens. There are one or two or more secret filled. Yeah, so a mastermind group is whatever you make it out to be. I've been a part of a variety of ones that, for 6-8 months, and maybe mastermind group is not the right word. That was just the word I kind of used just for any group of people that regularly get together. So it may have been a bad choice of words on my part, but it's a group of people trying to find other people like themselves. Now, some people will treat that as exclusive, secret, what have you. But as mentioned a few moments ago, there are a gazillion personalities out there with a whole bunch of people with lots of different goals. So not every single person is going to fit in with every group. And I found that out firsthand. I didn't fit in with every group out there either. So, to me, finding groups of people to motivate and to become my tribe has been really valuable for me. And that's the message I'm sharing here tonight. So next up, number 3, Superfly, hanging out with a bunch of millionaires here at DJ. Absolutely. Okay, so number 3, here we are. This has had more to do with me raising rates than you might imagine. Much like what I just finished speaking about, when your confidence goes up, so does your willingness to increase your rates and your ability to close sales. So I just finished speaking about, group of people that really helped push me, motivate me, give me confidence. Attending conferences always boosts my confidence. And I'm sure it does for every person watching that has attended a conference as well. That feeling you're waiting to catch your flight home and you're posting on Facebook just, with, my God, thank you to everybody that I met up with, and you're feeling really gracious and just motivated and powerful. So conferences do that for me. But attending, I will say, a workshop really boosts my confidence. I have raised my rates immediately. I'm talking the day after, immediately following a workshop, more times than in nearly every other circumstance. It's absolutely true. And I've taken a number of workshops, so I've been able to use those to help that along. Looking for upcoming situations where I knew my confidence was going to be boosted or lifted, I would often plan ahead of time in my head for what the rate increase would be. So if I had a workshop coming up or if I had a conference coming up, I wouldn't arbitrarily, set a new rate, 3 or 4 weeks before, whatever. No, it was going to be the date after I got back, because I knew my confidence was going to be sky high, and I was going to use that confidence to carry me forward into my next sales consultation. When I don't want to say this is not overconfidence, but when unquestionable confidence, like firm confidence, comes through in a consult, half of your sales job is done. It's absolutely true. When you believe in you, the prospective client sitting on the other side of the table will also believe in you. Workshops and conferences have given me remarkable bits of confidence, which makes the days immediately following them great times to raise. So while I sometimes don't open that notebook of notes after a conference, maybe near as much as I should, Nevertheless, the conference was valuable for me because of the confidence boost it gave me, which likely went to price. Paul, how important is solid confidence to price? For lack of a better word, Paul, it's everything. There's some animals out there, right, that can smell fear, and if you're scared, they can smell it and they come running after you. I really, really believe that same thing is true in sales. If you're in a sales consultation for the business that I do, which is weddings, and you're, oh, I'm not sure about my price. God, somebody told me I should. Da, 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 da. Stop right there. End the sales consultation, save everybody's time. I think confidence is imperative to price, and of course they then start piggybacking off one another, right? The higher your price gets, the more confident you get. You can't let confidence get ahead of you, of course, but it certainly helps, goes round and round. So quickly, how do you get yourself to a conference or to a workshop? Well, I've written blog posts about that, and what I would simply suggest is that right now, if you've never been to a conference, right now, or in the next 24 hours, 48's maybe pushing it off a little bit, but the next 24 hours, simply decide what conference you're going to attend. And then, as mentioned, in the month or so leading up to the conference, decide ahead of time where you're going to have your pricing go after the conference. Make that decision beforehand so that following the conference, on that high of confidence you come out of that conference with, you can just make the change in your paperwork, in your pricing sheet, wherever you might have to do that. So, I mean, you're going to be excited coming out of the conference and motivated coming out of it. So save the price, save the time, pardon me, of figuring out what your pricing might be so that you can just get right to work when you get back. And let me tell you, knowing that you have a raise coming after you've attended a conference makes the conference experience that much more exciting, knowing that, your raise when you leave that conference might actually quickly pay for that conference if you've got a few sales consults coming up. Workshops are another animal altogether, different from conferences. There are a pile of incredible workshops out there that DJs can attend, more now than there ever have been. In my case, the Marbecca workshops have been the single greatest source of price increases, because what you come out of those workshops with is something that's really, really hard to describe. And I spoke with a recent new attendee to a Marbecca workshop. He attended one of the Bronze MC workshops out east when Mark and Rebecca were out east. And he said, Dave, I get it now. I get that you weren't able to put into words how remarkable of an experience this is going to be. And so the growth and motivation that's come out of those has been second to none for me. And I'll provide a quick little anecdote about that. My very first Marbecca workshop, which was August of 2011, my buddy Brian Pudwerny and I, we drove down to Minneapolis for it. And we came out of it fired right up, ready to take over the world. And this is fact. On that drive home, we gave ourselves $500 per event raises. We committed to each other, which is something I'm going to get to actually a little bit later on. We committed to each other. Yep, let's do this. If I remember right, we went from $9.95 to $14.95, just like that. That's what confidence coming out of an educational opportunity, be it a conference or a workshop, will do. Really, really remarkable. Okay, number 4. This has been imperative to me, raising my prices, and it's one of my pet peeves, so it had to be in here. The time of year doesn't matter. Stop waiting until next year, whatever on earth that means, to raise rates. Picking January 1st is as arbitrary as anything. It really, really is. The time of year does not matter to you, nor does it matter to the couple inquiring about your services. It doesn't matter to anybody. It's just a mind game that we play with ourselves on. Over the past 8 years, my basic wedding reception rate changes went exactly like this. Was it 500, 895, 995, 1495, 1695, 1995, 2000, 2200, 2500, $2,800, $3,200, $3,500, $4,000, $4,500. Those were the jumps I took. Now, if you do the math on that number of rate changes per year, I think it equals out to about 1.7 times per year. So not only did it change on average once a year, I actually changed pricing more than once a year. Now, prior to my last 2 price increases, which came a lot further apart from one another, which I'll touch on a little bit later, prior to those 2, I was actually changing pricing 2.5 times a year. So had I waited until January 1st all the time to change prices, depending on the increases I would have given myself, I'd be at 2,200, maybe 2,500, which is a far cry from where I've been able to move myself now. So next year never comes. It's simple as that. I will say, due to the nature of raising my rates more regularly, multiple times throughout the year, it became easier and easier each time because it wasn't this big annual event. The more often you do something, the easier it becomes. And this is no different. You might not have all the signs more than once in a year telling you to raise pricing, but if you do, don't ignore them. Act on them. Your bottom line will really, really thank you. Plus, you'll now have additional resources, i.e. money, to put back into personal development and anything else that's important to you, which means your performance is likely going to get better, which means the experience you get to provide your clients and their guests will get better, which means you're going to get more inquiries, which means you're going to get more sales, which means, I think you get what I'm saying, right? As one of my favorite thinkers, and I have a couple of his books here, just to show you how much I appreciate this guy, my friend, Mr. Seth Godin, who has written quite the books. Let me tell you. Yes, these are 2 books, about 20 pounds a piece. As my buddy Seth says, the best time to start was last year. The second best time to start is right now. So next year never comes. Okay, any comments here before I get to the next one? Good. Glad for all the chatter, everybody. Thank you. I'll quickly reference here. This is Chuck. Hey, Chuck, thanks for being here, man. I really appreciate it. Depends on where you are. The town I live in is only about 60,000 people, and if I ever charge over $1,200, I'd be way over everyone in the area. Chuck, that's a very good point. I will say this. I am many, many miles above the majority of DJs in my area. Now, I'm going to get to something a little bit later on. There is another fellow in my area who he and I, we've been neck and neck for pricing for a long time, and I'll talk about the value of that right away. But look, actually, let me just see if I can pop a link in the chat here. I would encourage that we not let our region define who we are, and rather we define ourselves for the purpose of our region. It's for the record. For anybody watching this on the replay, by the way, the blog post I'm simply pulling up, if you head to adjthought.com, for the record is the blog post. I'm going to share this in here. This, for everyone that wants to check it out, describes where I live. So Chuck, 60,000 people, that is a relatively small town, you're right. I live in a town, I won't get into this too much right now, but I live in a town of 2,200 people right now. 30 minutes away is a town of 45,000. 2 hours further is a town of 500,000. So I'm a little bit out in the middle of nowhere. So I would really encourage, don't let your region dissuade you from, I guess, some of the content I'm sharing here, because I can really relate to you on that. That was a big question in my mind many years ago as well. And this presentation has to do with how I overcame that. So I hope this is valuable to you, Chuck, and everyone else out there as well. Okay, let's move to the next one. What do we got here? Love this one. This has been huge in figuring out how to raise my price. Ask your past wedding couples what type of value they received from you in relation to what they paid for their services. So Chuck and everybody else, this is a really important question. This is a really important thing to find out because it'll tell you where you sit. If your past wedding couples tell you they received more value from you than what they paid for, listen to them, please. Mark Farrell speaks about this idea in Getting What You're Worth, and it just makes sense. If your past wedding couples are telling you that you're worth more than what you're charging, listen to them. Through a post-wedding follow-up survey, ask them, in relation to how much they paid you, did they get their money's worth? Less than, equal to, more than, way more than? Most people, most DJs probably don't know the answer to that question because they never ask. Maybe you're afraid to ask, I don't know. Or maybe just never thought of it, which is totally cool as well, because I hadn't thought of it before somebody else shared this with me. My guess, though, that with some, the reason they fear asking is that the answer may hurt. Now, that could be true. You may get the occasional, yeah, you know, Dave, we were a little disappointed, actually. You know, we paid a lot of money and we, you know, yeah, you have to be ready to accept that. But my guess, quite likely, is that the answer will surprise and delight you. You never know, though, until those you've worked for have the opportunity to share the answer to that question. They ultimately are the ones who know, after the fact, right, what your services and performance are worth. They know better than anybody. They'll tell you if you should raise your rates. Early on in this 8-year journey of mine, I once had a couple insist on tipping me 30% more than the agreed upon fee. That couple, Mike and Tegan, they were remarkable. In fact, I've set their names in eternity. Their names exist in the About section on my website because they're really important to me. They taught me a pile about my worth as a mobile DJ, and thankfully, I had begun the task of surrounding myself with the right people. And I'd been known to watch for these indicators. These two, Mike and Tegan, many years ago, were a huge motivator for me and two people I'll never forget. Now, another personal story about this and listening to my couples, and this is outside of the feedback survey, which I'll mention right away. You can have access to mine if you'd like. A year after Mike and Tegan's wedding, I was working with Kyle and Alyssa for their wedding, and they had hired me as a result, oddly enough, of Mike and Tegan's wedding. And we had a blast working together, creating a really spectacular day for them. And following the toast of the bride, toast of the groom, we also have some welcome to the family speeches here. Following those speeches, traditionally the bride and groom up here get the opportunity to share a few thank yous. And so they had shared a bunch of thank yous. They thanked their parents, their wedding party, and so on and so forth. And then they turned to me, they looked over at me and said, and Dave, and they go on and on about me, which makes me feel a little uncomfortable because I actually, and I do this with every one of my weddings, I actually advise them ahead of time to not thank the people they're paying. But anyway, they go on thanking me in front of their 200 guests, and they finish their thank you by stopping, turning at me and pointing and saying, and by the way, Dave, you don't charge enough. I'm sorry, what? In front of all their guests. Yeah. If I would have ignored them, that would have been a disservice to them because they really went above and beyond. So if your couples are telling you you're worth more, that you're really wonderful, that you're really great, please believe them. Now, if anybody wants access to the feedback survey that I use, and it does have those questions about worth in it, go to adjthought.com, and I have a blog post there titled "Thank You, How'd I Do?" In fact, it may be the very top one that comes up when you go there. And at the bottom of that blog post is instructions for receiving access to the entire feedback survey that I use with my couples. So if you're curious about exactly like how I word those questions regarding worth and all that type of stuff, take a look there. Special thanks to Peter Mary, who inspired a good, the first half of that feedback survey of mine. So take a look at that. Thanks, Dave from Chuck. Yeah, I appreciate that, Chuck. Look, we can have a call offline as well about this if you'd like. But got it. Okay. Excellent. Great comments, everyone. Keep the chatter going. Let's get to number 6. Yeah, number 6. Got it. Told John I'd be. Oh no, we're about on time. Perfect. Turn regular competition into friendly competition. Always save the best for last, right? This sounds like fun, doesn't it? At least I hope it does. And I am here to tell you that it truly, truly, truly is. And there's good reason why this is the final, the tip in this series of 6. Find somebody local, ideally local. I know some are doing it in a not local fashion, but in my case, it was local. So find somebody local that you can relate to, that you can build a positive relationship with, that you just click with. And then, Chuck, maybe I'm speaking to you, and then compete with him or her to a race to the top. When they raise their price, so do you. And when you raise your price, so do they. So on and so forth. Race to the bottom, that's old news. Let's flip that around. Race to the top. It was back in 2010 when I first met Brian Podwerny from Expressions Entertainment, local to my region here. He's about half hour, 35 minutes away. And we became that person for each other. So much so I wrote a blog post called Find Your Brian, which I'll mention right away. We just clicked and we pushed forward together hard. And I mean really hard. We were constantly moving up together, at times leapfrogging each other when it came to price, other times just going up in lockstep, but always moving up together. And 8 years later, here we are, 2010, 2018, 8 years later, I can say unequivocally that this $500 to $4,500 journey would never have happened had Brian and I not met each other and become this positive, motivating form of competition and support. As a result, of course, for our region, as they say in the Navy, a rising tide lifts all boats, others in our area also raised their rates. And as a local industry, we all started earning closer to what we are worth as mobile DJs. It's been huge. I can't understate how ridiculously important this was. I did write a blog post kind of about the relationship with Brian and about how I think you should all go out and find it yourselves as well. If you look for a blog post called Find Your Brian on my blog at djthought.com, you'll see my complete write-up about that. The value that came from that relationship is impossible to measure. No question about it. What is clear, though, is this. Neither one of us would be doing exactly what we are today had we not pushed and motivated each other after meeting and push each other we did. It was remarkable. And I now know of DJs elsewhere in the country and around the world who have this relationship with one another. I know some people where, one's in Quebec, one's in North Carolina, they have this relationship. They're constantly egging each other on when it comes to pricing. They're constantly, gosh, I don't know, should I bump? Should we bump? Yeah, we should, let's go. And doing it together. Huge confidence booster. If you can do it with somebody local in your area, though, what happens is you get to then build the other person up to potential clients if you're unavailable for that date. And that's huge. And then, of course, there's 2 of you in that area helping establish that new ceiling of pricing as well, which is, going to be more valuable than anything. Now, one of the side benefits to this, and you've maybe heard this in kind of what I'm saying, is that if you really get pushed, or pardon me, if you've got somebody who's really good, they're going to push you a lot. Now you have to be the same for that person as well. So quick little story. Yesterday, I was out on my mountain bike doing some trail riding, and there were 3 of us, and I was in the middle of the pack for the first half of what we did. But for the second half of the 6 kilometers, we did about 15 kilometers total. So for the second half of the 6-7 kilometers, which is kind of 4.5 miles, I was not in the middle, though. For that last half, I was in the back. I was the last guy. Now, I am by far the most inexperienced out of the 3 of us. The other 2, they've been riding for ages. So I had to really push hard to keep up with them. Much harder than I'd have done had I been in the middle, or worse yet, by myself. There's no way I would have pushed that hard. I needed someone to chase. Now, in this case, I was chasing two people, of course, on our bikes. They were much faster than I was, and technically they were just much, much better than I was. They didn't nearly eat a tree like I did a couple of times. So much like earlier on when I spoke about surrounding yourself with a tribe of people, that group of people, if you're the smartest person in the room, it's time to find another room. And what I found for myself yesterday on my mountain bike was that I was far from the smartest person in the room there, which is exactly where I needed to be. So that's kind of, I guess, a convergence of number two from earlier and this one here. But the point remains, having that someone to chase, and then being someone that somebody can chase as well. A lot of benefit to that, huge benefit. Now, just before I get into this, and I know pricing can be a sensitive topic, so I hope I'm approaching it in a manner that isn't confrontational. I know I thought long and hard when I first published this blog post a few years ago, because I didn't want to alienate people, because the topic of pricing sometimes does that. So, lots of comments here. Hopefully they're all positive. We're all friends here, folks. We got McDonald's and Apple. Both are successful in every community on this planet. Yes. Yeah. No, great comments from everybody. Yeah, as mentioned at the very outset, what has accompanied my journey, and I'm going to make this clear just one more time, what has accompanied my journey over the last 8 years has been radical development when it comes to the time spent pre-planning with my couples and my roles in MC and my skills and talents as an MC. The MC that I am today, the MC that I was 8 years ago was crap compared to the MC that I am now. Unequivocal crap. Okay. So there have been massive changes and all that as well. So what I'd rather, I guess, that you all take away from this discussion is not, is it possible? It is possible, but it does depend on that part of my journey that I'm not speaking about in a whole lot of detail tonight. It does depend on you having that journey as well to go along with price increasing. I will not stand here and say, I just did this and didn't change a thing. Absolutely not true. As mentioned on the outset, there was a large part of the parallel to all this is self-development in a big, big way. And without that, you're going to struggle a lot more with raising price. But it doesn't make any of these points here invalid either. So, any more comments here? Most couples don't budget $4K for a wedding. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And in fact, I would say the overwhelming majority of couples that I work with didn't budget what they end up spending on me either. I show them something they didn't expect was available or even possible, and they make the decision to include me or not. Quick question: what skills do you feel add the most value in your client reviews, Paul? That's a fantastic question. That is a fantastic question, Paul. I am going to say the skills that add the most value in the client reviews that I get would likely be, I don't want to rank these. I want to get butchered over this. I'm going to say the confidence and people skills are right up there, along with MC skills, pre-planning, and the music skills are a very close runner-up to all those in my case. And I believe going forward, as the world gets used to, more complex mixing styles and this type of thing, I believe that's going to increase a lot, at least in the market I am here. And of course, in some markets, that is already on par, or maybe has been for a while. So in my case, just keeping it specific to me, The interpersonal skills are huge, huge. Learning about personality types has been massive as well on that. So, Paul, I'm not sure that completely answers your question. I hope it certainly gives folks an idea, though. So, real quick, how fast does this happen? Because this merits bringing up. In the first couple of years, things moved along really fast. As pricing increases, though, relative to your skill and talent development, which I touched on just a few minutes ago, there may be slowdowns as pricing increases. For instance, when I was workshopping like a madman, because there were a number of years back where I was doing 2-3 workshops a year, which I'm not at that pace anymore. But when I was workshopping like mad, prices jumped frequently. As of course I shared earlier, right? It was that day after a workshop I would raise price. As I've slowed that part of myself down now, though, and my price has climbed even higher, the frequency now of price increases slows down a lot. Now, I believe that this is a natural process in finding, or that I'm slowly discovering, I guess you could say, the ceiling for what my clients are capable of paying and how my price reflects my skills and talent. I need to work on skills and talent a lot more before I do a price increase. I've got some areas I need to work on. I will stand here and say that. If I, for instance, if I could spend the next 6 to 12 months working really hard on my mixing skills, which, are average for the moment, but if I could take them to that next level, I've no doubt that I could do another price increase here in my region where I currently sit. So it may start faster for you, but it will slow down and taper off over time as you find that true ceiling, as that ceiling relates to your level of skill and talent, which, like I said, if I was to develop that more, I'd be able to go to different places than I am now. 6 consultations. VIPs. I'm borrowing that from Marcello. Marcello, the author of this fantastic book. VIPs, very important people. That's how he refers to your tribe. And I just want to read a quick quote that he has in his book to do with that point. The fastest way to change yourself is to hang out with people who are already the way you want to be. That quote is from Reid Hoffman. Hugely valuable quote. The fastest way to change yourself is to hang out with the people who are already the way you want to be. Educate, conference, workshop, and then use those events as launching points for a new price. And don't wait for yesterday, and don't wait for next year, because next year never comes. Don't arbitrarily put it off if you can help it. And as well, ask your past wedding couples what they felt the value of what you delivered to them was. Get them to be honest. Have a third party. Call them if you need to. And find someone who you can race with. Find someone who you can compete with in a cooperative fashion. Co-opetition, is that a word? In your quest, imagine, to earn a bit of a living from DJing / struggling with price, in your quest for that, I guess what I want to ask is, and this is for everybody here, when was the last time you attended a conference? I know some of you on this call here have, and maybe some haven't. So when was the last time you attended a conference? How about a workshop or performance training workshop specifically? Do you surround yourself with those earning the rates that you'd like to get to? Are you the price leader in your market? Do you have someone you can picture right now that you could buddy up with to go on this trip to, achieving something, different from where you're at right now? When was the last time you asked your couples directly, and not through Wedding Wire or The Knot or anything, but when was the last time you asked them directly about their thoughts on their investment with you? Do you suffer from waiting until next year to raise rates? Are you succeeding in sales? Do you know how to sell? Who are your VIPs? Again, Marcello, he writes beautifully about those very important people. So have you ever booked 6 inquiries in a row? Do you associate with those who will build up, motivate you? Have you recently attended a conference? I just asked that. Are your wedding couples telling you you did an amazing job and they would have paid you more? If you said yes to any of those, then it might just be time for a raise. Congratulations. That's all you got to do. All you got to do. So let's chat. Does anybody have any more questions about anything that I've shared? Any of those 6? Those have been the 6 most impactful things for me. I'm just going to sneak through the comments here quick. How to raise prices, percentage or season, Superfly. So I'm going to answer that's a great question, and one that I did not touch on. Percentage, you know what? I just did even dollar amounts, 200, 300, 400, 500, depending on how confident I was feeling. And there was no specific season. No. I'll bet you I've probably raised price at some point in time in every month. Yeah, I can't think of. Now, I will say that when I waited to book, when I was using the metric of, okay, 6 inquiries came in and all of them booked that I would raise, when I used that metric to decide when I was raising, I will say I get a lot of inquiries from my work in the summertime when I'm actively outperforming most frequently at weddings. So the result of that is I get a lot of inquiries because people are like, hey, we saw you at, whatever. And a lot of people get engaged here in the summertime anyway. So as a result, I suppose the answer to the question might be, late summer, fall. I maybe saw a lot of price increases just because of how, my inquiries somewhat come in, but not a particular season. No. So hope that answers the question. As for percentage, yeah, I don't know. Okay, where are we here? How much of an increase in rate? Yeah, so tell you what, I'll quickly run through you again. If anybody wants to write these down, go ahead. I mean, I'm not sure how valuable this will be, but the jumps that I did, I believe were 500, 895, 995, and then there was that big jump to 1495 after that first Marbeka workshop. 1695, 1995, and then from there I went to even numbers: 2200, 25, 28, 32, 35, 400, or 4,000, 4,500. So those were my increases in rates. Do what's comfortable. Do what's comfortable for you and the person you're going to partner up with on this. That's what I would suggest. But that it was never any less than $200, and it's never been any more than 500 to this point. Rob, thank you for being here, my friend. How did you form your mastermind? Was it organic, or did someone approach you to be in it? So the groups I've been a part of have just been a result of a conversation with one DJ saying, you know what, hey, why don't we get together once a week, once every couple of weeks, once a month, and just chat about a particular topic. So they were all pretty informal. Another took place because I happened to have lunch with a random group of people in Vegas at Mobile Beat Las Vegas at the conference. I was just out in the food court grabbing some lunch, happened to see a group of people, only knew one of them sitting at that table. And next thing you know, every month for the months that followed, for the year that followed, once a month we would get together via, at that time we used Skype because Zoom wasn't a thing yet, but that was, so that was how it happened with that particular group. So they find a DJ that you click with, say, hey, let's get together once a month, and just try to find some other people between the two of you that you feel may click in that group. What workshops are you taking over the next year? Paul, that is a fantastic question. My most recent workshop was the Announcing and Engineering Bronze Marbeka workshop this past March. Yeah. I don't have another workshop planned for this year yet, although I may jump into Peter Murray's Make It Grand and or Professional Process, as they are coming to Winnipeg is the plan for this November. But as of yet, I'm unsure about that and scheduling. So that was the most recent one I took, was the Announcing and Engineering Bronze. I don't have anything scheduled right now. My guess is the Marbeka workshops that are scheduled for around Vegas, Mobile Beat in March of next year are probably already sold out. And if they aren't, they probably will be soon. So I'll have to see what's available there. I'm just going to jump through the chat here one more time, and then I think we will probably wrap up. Let's take a look here. When you've got stuck on a price, when you were above the 3,000-ish, what did you do to push through? Just do it? That's a great question, Rich. Let me just go back to our let's talk slide. There have been times where, God, the last 4, 5 inquiries just don't book. And that gets really frustrating. I won't stand here and pretend that I don't get those days. They certainly come about, yeah. You've got to push through. If you're getting in that funk, maybe try to get yourself into a workshop again, or try to work on more sales skills. I should say just a quick bit about sales. Storytelling has become a massive, massive sales benefit for me. When I say sales skills, just so that people aren't assuming something, I'm not talking about your traditional sales where all I'm doing is spouting features and benefits and yada, yada, yada. And what are your pain points here? Let me help them. I sell through story an awful lot. And I've written blog posts about that as well. If you head over to the blog and click on the sales tag on the right-hand side, you'll see posts I've written that have to do with that. But yeah, push through. Thank you, Arnoldo. All great points, Dave. Thanks, Chuck. Appreciate that. And that's okay. That's all right. Getting away from the point. Dave, you remind me a lot of some speakers I've listened to. Tell me you've read Book Yourself Solid. You know what, Arnoldo? I have not. That's Michael Port, if I remember correctly, right? I have not. I'll be honest. I struggle a little bit with some of the sales books out there and this type of thing. Rich, who's on here, I believe, he's graciously has provided me with a copy of the Win Without Pitching Manifesto, which I'm into right now, which is really quite fascinating. So, but no, I have not done it yet, and I'll be honest. One of the reasons I maybe haven't read that book yet is because of the red velvet rope policy that I've heard about. Now, this is completely uneducated me talking about this. Sorry, John, I'll wrap up right away. This is completely uneducated me talking about this because I haven't read the book. But the concept of red velvet rope policy bothers me a little bit because I turn a lot of people who might not otherwise pass that into some of the most remarkable clients I've ever had. So I guess there's a bit of fear that I might be losing out on the opportunity to really, offer something transformative to people who may not have otherwise gotten through. But I should read it. You're not the first person to recommend it. Piles of people have. So audiobook. Tell you what, I'm going to make that happen. That's my commitment to you on this. And thank you for being here. Let's see. I hate sales books, but Book Yourself Solid was amazing. Okay, well, tell you what, Arnoldo, that is an endorsement that I cannot ignore. So I thank you for that. Love it. Also, the presentation secrets of Steve Jobs, phenomenal. That may intrigue me. Very cool. Thank you, Victoria, for being here. Thank you all. Really appreciate this. Thanks for letting me bumble through this webinar presentation. Really appreciate all of you being here. It means an awful lot to me. I know it means an awful lot to John that you're all here as well, but it means an awful lot to me that you came as an audience tonight and took some time out of your evening. So with that being said, if anybody wants to reach out to me, please do so through the blog at djthought.com, or you can hit me up on Facebook or whatever you'd like. I'm pretty easy to find. Thank you so much, everyone. Dave Ternier signing off. Take care.